having me. My name is Meghna. I'm going to go a little back to my childhood. So I was a voracious reader when I was growing up. I used to read a lot of books. But in these books, the girls were always fragile with itty-bitty waist and blonde hair and blue eyes. And the boys were strong and swarthy and tall, and they would always save the girls. So, I started thinking, even though I was not scared of lizards, I pretended to be scared anyways. And even though I really liked to climb trees and ladders, I was like, oh no, I have to be dainty. And in all of this, I realized later that I had started conforming to gender stereotypes. What are stereotypes? See, stereotypes are an overgeneralization of attributes and characteristics of a group or people. So, when you say you're from South India and everybody's like, oh, so you eat dosa for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? See, that's a stereotype, right? And these stereotypes are very dangerous. And just to know how dangerous they are, we're going to go visit this experiment called the stereotype threat by Claude Steele. So what Claude Steele does is that he takes a group of women and he puts them into two separate groups. For one group, he gives them a math test, and before the math test, he reminds them that they are Asian. The second group, before the math test, he reminds them that they are women. Guess what happens? You see, when the results came out, the women who were reminded that they were Asian performed better than the women who were reminded that they were women, because the women who were reminded that they were Asian confirmed the stereotype of Asian people being hardworking and acing their work, while the women who were reminded that they were women were reminded of the fact that women are told they're not good in math and science. You see, not only this, please do not take your phones out right now, but if you Google search for the image of a doctor, 95% of the time, you will see a male. And that is how biased machine learning is. Please don't take out your phones now. And, you might ask, when do these stereotypes start? Believe me or not, it starts as early as age 4. So early, so I was going for a workshop and I asked this kid, I was like, hey, do you think women can be race car drivers? And the 7-year-old boy tells me, no ma'am, I mean girls have long hair and race car driving is very fast, all the hair will come in front of his face. So I'm like, well, what if, she ties her hair? And he thinks for a moment, the 7-year-old, and he's like, girls don't have any strength. And this is what stereotypes do. Stereotypes lead to prejudice. And a prejudice is an inflexible attitude or belief towards something that you have. You know how everybody's like, all these people from North India, they're so loud, except my friend. That's what prejudice does to you. You constantly modify your belief system to fit your needs, but you will not change in general. And these stereotypes, how does it all happen? Well, one of the first reasons is that gender is used as an environment organizer. Girls, sit there, boys, sit there, men, please eat first, girls, please eat last. That environment organizing in schools, in colleges, and in workplaces that you see, that actually contributes to gender stereotypes. Second, the media around us. Did you know that when Quartz, a newspaper, analyzed Hindi movies from 1950 to 2017, 80% of the time, men were mentioned in the Wikipedia articles, and 15% was the time when women were mentioned. And out of all this time, every time the man was defined as the characteristic cool, strong person, and the woman was always assigned in relationship to the man. Oh, ye Mr. Sharma ka beti. You know, X and Y. The second is the media. And with all of this, one might wonder, is there a way out? Do we have a way out of all of this? Well, I'm going to tell you around 3 things that you can do to reduce gender stereotypes around you. First, multi-classification. When you teach a child or someone else that they belong not only a woman, but they're an Indian, they're an entrepreneur, they're a dog lover, I'm talking about me, you de-emphasize the role of gender as a primary categorizing technique. So that's one. Number 2, and this is funny. Let's give an example. You know when there is an India-Pakistan match and suddenly everyone in this country are best friends? You know? Or when you go out of the country and you see someone in a sari, you're like, oh my God, wo meri behan hai, you know, India, India. You see, what happens is that when you show commonalities between two extremely different group of people, you actually bridge the psychological distance between them. So in order to tell boys and girls that they are same, you can help them find something common that they both have. And lastly, and this is just something that I say, but can we stop using hey guys on WhatsApp? Can we start saying hey folks? I mean, just what happened to us women? Like, do we have to be addressed as guys every time? Language is important. So with all of this in my head, I co-founded the Irrelevant Project, and we came out with 5 feminist books for children. These are picture books. All the characters are brown skin, hair on their bodies, not the typical definition of pretty, but you know, normal-looking regular people. These kids in my stories, they kind of find out and solve problems of gender in their own way. And people really liked it. We were surprised, you know, feminist. Okay. But, and then I chanced upon this research by Betsy Paluk, and she's this amazing scholar, right? And she finds out that in Rwanda, where there are warring tribes, it was possible to actually develop a friendship between them when she started using relatable characters in a radio soap opera. So she started an opera called New Dawn. In New Dawn, the characters actually became friends and they got married, and it actually translated to real life where interracial marriage were actually starting to get allowed. And this really inspired me. So I branched off, I founded the gender company, and what we do is that we send out audio serials to children. You need a phone, and you need to just dial in a number, and what you get is the episode of the day where you find out how Sulin and Minnie are trying to figure out the relationship between them, you know? So that's what I do, and I'm coming to the end of my talk, but before I go, I need to say this. See, I wasn't born a feminist. In fact, it still takes me a lot of time to unlearn the conditioning that I have. But you and I are very privileged people. And what might be discomfort to us is actually someone's physical and mental jeopardy. Do not forget that. And if you do not forget that, you will start lending your voice to this movement. Thank you.